us about Batman 66.
Best crime fighter ever.
Oh, definitely. So, I gotta say, when you're writing a comic, you really do a fantastic job capturing the tone, the language, just the essence of the TV show. How did you capture that? How did you get it right so well?
Because it's etched in my DNA. I really seriously did not even have to look at the show again. I wrote down some things like I wanted to do, and then just to make sure, I went, you know what, maybe I'm remembering it all wrong. So then I went back on YouTube and started watching shows, and like, nope, I remembered every single bit of this. Because when I was a kid, I mean, I was watching reruns, but, you know, I was glued. I would run to the TV when it was time for that, and I had a crappy old set that you had to hold the thing just right to get the picture to come in. And I would sit there and do this for, you know, a half hour.
Right, just to make sure.
Yeah, to make sure it was going on. It's like, that stuff just was huge in my consciousness. And I felt it had a certain tone that needed to be captured. And I also, years of writing comic books, I realized really quickly you couldn't put the dialogue down exactly the same like Adam West would have said it. Because if you wrote that much dialogue, it would just be this massive balloon on the page.
Exactly, it would take up the whole thing.
But then if you kind of break it down and you think about the delivery and you put some key pauses and stuff in here and you choose the kind of words that they would have written, you know, I was going to say, I lost my train of thought. But it's just making little choices so you can briefly do what they did longer. And it's surprising. Then once you get an artist who can do the likeness, and not just the likeness, anybody really good can just say, hey, this is what Julie Newmar looks like. But to get the acting, you got to have your board, you're going like this, you're slamming your fist in your hand or whatever. Catwoman's marching around, parading, kind of owning the stage.
Yeah, slinking all over the place.
Because she was a dancer and she had this real command of the stage that nobody else in the show had. So she could just march through, and it's like instantly, it's like she owns the whole theater at that point. When you start getting that stuff in there in the art, combined with the dialogue approximated, your head does the rest, and man, you're right back in the show. And that's what you're trying to get the feel more than anything else, more than doing a rote imitation of it.
Exactly. And now, as far as capture that feel, and it's inspired over again, crossover industry today.
Yes.
And also this big resurgence of 60s Batman, about the Blu-ray coming out, and like Batman 3.
That's going to be just pretty much the #1 seller this Christmas.
I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that.
So I'm curious, how much did you have the input in these other forms of it, whether it be like maybe talking to people who Blu-ray set or...
No. Well, that's the one thing. Everybody, and it's a different format, different media and all that. But yet, you can tell when you see some of that stuff that like they also get it. You know, they're like, it's done by people who like it and they're not making fun of it or trying to make it into something it's not.
Yeah, it's all an appreciation of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the main thing. If people are really celebrating it for what it is, it tends to all come out right. It's all, really doing well. I mean, it's like so many people along the line are fans, and that's the great thing about it. I don't mean that you have to be a fan of everything you work on, because I don't actually believe that. But I think in this case, you've got to be a certain kind of fan of the show to get that right and to get it across to everybody else so that they see it too.
Now, Adam West, as you know, was here yesterday, talking about his panel, press and whatnot, and he did a lot of talking about villains of the show. Do you have a favorite Batman villain from the 60s?
Gosh. Well, I mean, if I see Frank Gorshin as the Riddler on, I've got to sit down and watch whatever he's doing because the guy is just owning the place again.
Definitely.
He was the other one, and I felt like he was also really determining the look of the show a lot because he kept bouncing around, and he was like an acrobat or something. And
well, that's one of the things Adam said, right? Frank just came in with this manic energy, really.
Yeah, and you couldn't just suddenly do a static looking thing once he was in the room, and he set the tone because he was the first villain. and he gets down on the floor and starts beating the floor. It's just great. So they're forced to then put the camera down there with him doing his thing. And I guarantee they didn't tell him to do it. I'm sure it's just because if you ever watch any of his TV or Vegas stuff, he would just bust into a dance or do whatever. He was one of those all-around entertainers. But the thing that's amazing about him, he can be completely silly and goofy. He can turn to a thug menace, like on the spot, where he looks like he's just gonna, put Robin in a coma or something, and you're like, God, he was actually scary. It's like, and that's the perfect thing. Whenever they do that, it's like it really works. So I think, as much as I love some of the others, like Heat Tut and everything, he for me nails the perfect tone of the show.
Thanks so much for your time.
Hey, thanks.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.